Welcome to AIM10X Global On Demand. Please enjoy the session at your own pace.
Greetings to the AIM10X Global participants. My name is Umesh, the Chief Product Officer at O9. I'm so excited to be part of this select group today. Hopefully you're enjoying the session so far on various digital transformation topics. And there have been a number of amazing discussions on planning and digital transformations. And I'd like to expand on that further in this session today. Today, I'm going to pivot a little bit and talk about the technology point of view. What does it take to enable next-generation planning and decision-making transformations? So what are we going to cover in today's session? The flow for this session will cover 3 topics. First, I'll set up the challenges and complexities of enterprises and why there is a need for the digital brain and next-generation platforms. Next, I'll spend some time talking about the digital brain components and how it is powered by the enterprise knowledge graph technology. And finally, we'll cover how industry digital brain methodology gives us the ability to scale using business model characteristics and decision maps. And finally, we'll cover how industry digital brain methodology gives us the ability to scale using business model characteristics and decision maps across multiple industries while providing a building block approach to enabling successful transformations. First off, let me set the context. Most of you are experienced in this space and understand the challenges with digital transformations. Whichever way you spin it, it is a fact that supply chain and planning transformations are extremely complex with the number of variables in play. On one side, you have a myriad of planning processes that are needed to run a business, all the way from demand sensing to demand planning to new product introductions to master planning to production scheduling, etc. On the other side, you have customers that belong to various industry segments. And as you're aware, every customer is unique or does something different from the other. Even within industries or sub-industries, the business models of the enterprise are so different that multiple planning solutions are needed to address the business needs. The big question is, can the next generation platforms bridge the divide? But more importantly, can it do it in a manner that you don't have to build and maintain separate code bases for all these permutations and combinations of industries and business processes or solutions? So what are some of the biggest challenges? Enterprise silos. Silos are inherent in every planning enterprise because businesses have grown organically or through acquisitions over time, and this leads to new processes, new tools, new planners, etc., etc. So some of the typical silos we see are having a hard time getting access to data within the enterprise. Imagine the possibilities that you could do a Google search within your enterprise and get the answers you need. Enterprises have a hard time sharing information and insights. There are thousands of meetings to get alignments every day. Imagine having real-time collaboration capabilities to improve the capture of risks and opportunities and assumptions and so on. Similarly, agreeing upon a one-number forecast or one-number plan or knowledge silos where most of the information is heavily biased depending on the tribal knowledge and so on. Having said that, what do we see as the enabler of next-generation planning and decision-making? The framework that we see making the 10x difference is having a digital brain that connects all of these planning processes and enterprise platforms together. Think of a digital version of the human brain for an enterprise. The human brain is really good at collecting all the information from everything that's happening around us and creating knowledge models that enable decision-making. Companies have moved away from interconnected products to interconnected platforms. These could be customer engagement platforms or product innovation platforms or operations automation platforms or supplier engagement platforms. And all these platforms are collecting a lot of information, a lot of data, whether it's from the consumer behavior or product usage from all of the sensors that are embedded in products, or the factory IoT data, or supplier data, etc. For example, if a supplier has had a disruption at one of their tier 2 or tier 3 factories, it's hard to understand what impact that has on the consumer experience. Or if there's a social influencer that is causing sales to spike, how can the demand be shaped if the brain already knows inventory is low? So in summary, best-in-class truly integrated planning technologies should be able to not only integrate planning processes, but also support some of the next-generation planning capabilities, such as real-time data across structured and unstructured data sources, advanced AI/ML analytics to analyze the data at scale, what-if scenario planning to analyze risks and opportunities in the business, real-time collaboration to connect the dots across organizations in real time, auto-derived and planning data decisions or decision systems of record, etc., etc. The key to enabling an end-to-end connected platform that understands the market, demand, and supply signals and enhances decision-making is the enterprise knowledge graph technology, which is the digital model of market and operations data and knowledge. So what is the underlying capabilities of this EKG? With that background, let's do a deep dive into the underpinnings of the EKG technology. As I mentioned earlier, the EKG is a modeling technology that is powering the digital brain. So how is this different from what most enterprises have? Let me try to explain this by highlighting a few areas on why it is completely transformative and why it is different. And then I'll show you some of the capabilities. Let's start with the first capability of the EKG. EKG enables instantaneous propagation, so connecting all types of data structures for real-time propagation. Now, why is this important? Let's talk about the current state problem. In the current state, companies have various demand and financial planning tools that are built based on OLAP technology, which has hierarchies for aggregation, disaggregation, and so on. And then there are supply chain modeling tools that are built on network relationship modeling. But what's happening in reality is that these tools are not connected. So when demand changes or supply impacts are not understood, what if you need to do that in real time? Furthermore, there are unstructured data that's coming in about consumers, competitors, etc. And there's no way of knowing which demand is being impacted and what does that mean to the supply chain and how the information propagates. So for example, any changes in the market, say consumer sentiment for a new product is high due to a celebrity endorsement or social influencers, the knowledge graph will instantaneously propagate that to relevant connected models, the impacted product owners, the impacted initiatives, consumer intelligence models or demand knowledge models, etc., thereby incorporating the risks and opportunities that are associated with such inputs. The second capability of the EKG we want to talk about is converting big data into knowledge. So what is the problem today? Companies have a lot of data and they're building data lakes and data warehouses all over the place. But there's a difference between just data and knowledge. The human brain works by converting data into knowledge. So what O9 has built is a similar concept where we integrate to all these data lakes and the EKG is converting them into knowledge models that can be used for planning and decision making. Why? Because the data itself is not usable. Data has to be collected intelligently into these knowledge models. So the EKG connects to all data sources within and outside the enterprise and is constantly taking in all kinds of transactional data and converting them into knowledge. The third capability of the EKG we want to talk about is right-size models for performance and flexibility. What is the problem with current technologies? Current technologies are modeling at the lowest level of detail. In your demand planning systems, what are your problems? Performance is usually a problem, and the ability to change the model is usually a problem when your business changes. Take, for example, your plans and targets. They make sense only at the brand month level, forecast makes sense only at the SKU level, but traditional OLAP systems are forcing all the data to be stored at the lowest level of detail, just for reconciliation and the way the technology is architected, so it has a lot of fake details. That's why even though it does not make sense from a business perspective, you are forced to store plan or target at the SKU week level. So when you need to change the target for a category, it is an issue. When you go to the EKG models, we're able to model each one the way it should be. Each model itself is a node, but the nodes are all connected versus a single monolithic cube. So one node can be changed without impacting all the other nodes, and that's where the flexibility is coming in. And also performance is no longer an issue because we are no longer capturing the fake details. Similarly, most traditional planning systems capture models at the SKU level for 18 months out. They don't take intelligently the fact that further out in the horizon, I can automatically create models at higher levels to drive better performance. We can automatically create more aggregate level models to enable faster scenario planning. And there are a variety of other intelligence capabilities around the 3 Ws of planning: what happened, what's likely to happen, and what actions to take. So these are capabilities such as prescriptive intelligence, predictive intelligence, and learning intelligence. While the technology is good, we need a few more ingredients to have a successful transformation. The key metrics that'll drive it would be speed and quality of implementation while retaining the flexibility as business changes. Going back to the original slides around permutation combinations around the processes and industries, this is a very important lever. Our IDB Industry Digital Brain methodology provides the framework to enable a best-in-class digital transformation. I'll talk about these elements in the next few slides. So what are the key ingredients to a successful transformation? Let's start with the platform. The platform provides the framework for the digital brain, as we have discussed in the previous section. While the flexibility is good for meeting unique business needs, standardization is required to accelerate these transformations. This is where the reference products built on the same underlying EKG comes into play. These are best-in-class reference products for demand, supply, control tower, etc., but they're based on business model characteristics. I'll explain what we mean by that in the next slides, but this is key to us scaling across industries. The third layer is the industry digital brain templates to encapsulate best practices for each industry, for example, consumer products or telco, etc. And finally, business transformations leverage the IDB templates based on the solution building blocks, but they get the flexibility of the platforms for extensibility and business model changes. Let me just spend a minute on business model characteristics. So for example, what is common between a La-Z-Boy, a Cargotec, or HPE? They all belong to different industries in furniture, industrial equipment, computers, and servers, but they all have common characteristics. For example, they're all configured to order products, which specifically means that for demand forecasting, you need to be able to support options attach rate forecasting models. So that is the way we would abstract the business model that applies to multiple industry segments that allows us to scale the capabilities of the reference product. Similarly, what is common between an Estée Lauder, an AB InBev, and Mosaic? These are all process manufacturing industries which are spanning across personal care, cosmetics, or CPG or chemicals. But all of them specifically need campaign planning or tank storage modeling, etc., which are really the characteristics that would be part of the reference products that enables us to bring these functionalities together. So net-net, all these business model characteristics are really our scaling function, right? This enables us the modeling of the characteristics by product, by sales domain, by fulfillment characteristics. All of them, those permutations and combinations allow us to avoid having to create so many different combinations of reference products, but rather we focus on the industry business model characteristics. So these are really key elements that allow us to scale the industry coverage using these business model characteristics. By that, what we mean is the ability for us to be able to abstract business model characteristics allows us to focus on those smaller combinations of elements. For example, I have fixed configurations that can be applied to multiple industries, or build to stock, build to order that applies to different industries. Having the ability to model those gives us the ability to deploy those solutions across various industries where they are relevant, right? So avoiding having to create these combinations of solutions that are specific to those industry segments, but abstracting them out and creating those reference products is really the key. Switching gears a little bit, from a business process transformation perspective, how do these come together and how do we accelerate the business transformation processes, right? Our point of view is the enterprise decision map is the key, right? How can all of these decisions that you make across an enterprise be integrated and optimized across these various planning cycles and planning processes? For us, it's the representation of the EKG that allows us to model the digital twin of the enterprise and then represent what key decisions are being made at what step in the process and what is it enabling. Because there are various types of decisions being made. There are commercial decisions that relate to your new product introductions, your assortments, and so on, that are influenced by your market models and your demand models. There are obviously demand and forecast decisions that are required to come up with a consensus, a one-number forecast. Similarly, there are supply chain decisions that can be multi-level decisions. For example, you have for your tier 2 manufacturers, what are my material purchase orders, or your supplier sourcing decisions. For my tier ones, I could be talking about capacity authorization decisions and so on, right? But the decision map is really the key for an enterprise for us to be able to represent industry specific variants of these processes and decisions. And this is really where the industry digital brain templates come together, because that allows us to connect the dots from the business model characteristics of the reference product into taking the industry specific decision maps and marrying the two together, right? So these decisions actually are enabled by one or more of the business processes, right? So we have multiple types of decisions being made. There are revenue growth management building blocks that enable certain decisions. There are demand planning building blocks that enable certain decisions, supply chain management building blocks. But the key is not having a single monolith like we talked about on the modeling side. Similarly, on the process side, there are a number of building blocks that can either function independently or can function together as a group, right? So if you talk about on demand planning side, the key foundational building block is really collaborative DP. How do we bring all the forecasts, tie all the forecast numbers together so that there's a single consensus view across my top-down numbers versus my bottom-up plans, across different inputs from sales, marketing, all of them need to come together. But that's a decision block because that enables certain processes. Now, in order for us to expand that, you could add on, let's say I want to add on forecasting capabilities. I want advanced AI ML capabilities. But our point of view is those are incremental transformation. Instead of having a big bang transformation, you're looking at incremental transformations where you're increasing the adoption of these products by making them sticky, right? So our approach is really the digital brain and the digital decision maps enables us to figure out what are the key solution building blocks across the entire process map of the business, from my revenue management to demand planning to supply chain management, right? And all of these then are actually going to be sequenced. So the IDB methodology really then takes the various building blocks that are available within my enterprise and then figure out what is the best way for me to get incremental and fast value. And that's really where the sequencing of the solution building blocks comes in, because here what we're trying to do is match the maturity of the enterprise with the maturity of the planning processes and what are the best building blocks that enable a fast transformation. So if you think about some of the basic building blocks, those would be around collaborative demand planning that I talked about. So then on the demand planning track, you could be starting with a DP where you're bringing all the numbers together, right? So you have existing systems today that is already doing some of the processes, but here you're enabling a digital view into that process, right? So you're bringing all of them into the same platform and do a consensus process. Similarly, on the IBP foundation, where you're moving away from spreadsheets into these digital online meetings, right? So instead of having to spend hours and hours creating Powerpoints or spreadsheets that you end up spending a lot of time that becomes stale. By the time you get to the meetings, the data is outdated. Instead, get all of the data into the system, build an IBP foundation where you can actually run the meetings on the system, right? So that enables a quick and easy view for the various participants that are involved in your planning process to come together, look at the risks and opportunities, make decisions around what are the best policies to run and so on. But it gives you a digital system to enable that. So that's what we're calling about foundational blocks. And then you can add on more advanced capabilities, right? Like if you want to enable commercial simulations or to do what if on the risks and opportunities, or you want to do supply response simulations where you want to see what are my various supply responses that I can have to my demand upside opportunities and so on. Those are the advanced building blocks that would come in the next phase of the implementation, right? So overall, it's a transformational process in the sense we start with the platform enables flexibility of the transformation. The reference products gives us standard capabilities. The industry digital brain templates gives us the methodology and industry specificity that then allows us to sequence what is the best way for us and the fastest way for us to get acceleration in terms of deploying these processes at enterprises, and what is the fastest time to value that can be enabled through these. That was a quick overview of some of the technology and methodology enablers. to accelerate and transform planning and decision making for the enterprise. If you want to learn more, please connect with us and hope you enjoy the rest of your sessions. Thank you.